Now, the Bram Weinstein Show on Washington's new home for sports, ESPN 630.
Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Short show, everyone. Hi, everyone.
Your favorite.
My favorite short show.
I'm going to be on the air longer than you are today.
That's right. I get to say my piece and go home on time, everyone. Hi, everyone. Hi. How about my team, everyone? Thank you, Torts. Let's see.
Can I say I called it, though? Did I call that outcome, or did I not?
What?
About the
empty net goal
I
wins.
told you, it was like being up by a goal. They were spotted a goal last night.
That's right.
That's really how it shook out.
Let's see. Orioles just won 4-2 on a walk-off from Cedric Mullins to beat the Twins, so they sweep the Twins. They're off tomorrow. Nationals are playing right now, and, well, they're up 2-0 on the Dodgers. It's the middle of the fifth inning there. C.J. Abrams has a solo home run. Joey Meneses sac fly. Both runs came in the first inning. Jake Irvin's on the mound, threw 3 hits, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. No runs allowed, 2-0 Nationals. So they're looking to win a series out at Dodger Stadium.
Look at them.
Yeah. Thumbs up, guys.
Look at them.
Thumbs up.
2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs up to you guys. All right, so that's what's happening live. Last night, we did get the bizarro, the Flyers had to win in regulation game.
That's why I prepared you on this.
Predictably, the game was tied late, and the Flyers then made the decision to pull their goaltender. Mm-hmm. Now, what they apparently didn't know was they were eliminated by the time that they did this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Red Wings, for this to work, the Flyers not only had, the only chance they had was to win in regulation. They couldn't get to overtime because they would not be able to qualify for the playoffs. But they also needed the Red Wings to lose in regulation. Right. Otherwise, the point was moot.
Yep.
The Red Wings game started before the Capitals game did.
Yep.
The Red Wings tied that game with 3 seconds left against Montreal, sent them to overtime. At that point, the Flyers were eliminated from the playoffs, but apparently didn't know this because they pulled their goalkeeper anyway. We caught a break. TJ Oshie makes a nice play on a puck down the boards and throws it into an empty net, and the Capitals get to go to the playoffs without having to do anything in overtime or the shootout because the Flyers inexplicably at that point pulled their goaltender.
Yeah.
They didn't know. This is akin to Ron's, we can't make the playoffs. It is.
Well, I think my guess
they
here.
didn't, with 10 minutes to go and the game was tied, it was still all on.
Yeah.
But at the point when they actually pulled their goaltender, it was off for them.
When I tell you this, though, there was literally a 2-minute difference, like 120 seconds of this happening, of the Red Wings sending it to overtime and then pulling the goalie. It was literally that. And my guess here, because I can't imagine it was any other way, I'm going to guess Tortorella told everyone, don't tell us what happens. So we just know we have to pull the goalie. Like, we know we have to do this. That's what my guess is here. Because
they pulled him again.
Right. Yes, exactly.
After it was 2-1, because when the goal was scored, there was 4 minutes left.
That's right. Yeah.
So they pulled it because they had to, accept that it was over.
Right.
They didn't actually.
Now the conspiracy theory is Tortorella and company decided, don't tell us because we don't care. We have to win this in regulation, and so be it. We'd rather have the Caps make it than the Penguins make it. That's the tinfoil hat theory.
Well, then in that case, then why did they just put the goaltender back in when it was 2-1? Because they were out anyway. Like at that point, they also were out. So if they wanted to sabotage Pittsburgh, they could have played it straight up.
But that's what I'm saying is that maybe that was the reason why they said don't tell us what happens.
Maybe.
Period. Because they're going, we either make it or the Caps beat us and we screw over the Penguins.
Okay.
We either win or screw over Pittsburgh.
I mean, if they didn't pull the goaltender at any point in time, it would have made no sense.
Right.
But then once it became clear that they could not make the playoffs, it made no sense that the goaltender was off the ice.
Correct, yeah.
That for the purpose of the competitiveness of the league, they should have left their goaltender in a tie game. Down 2-1, fine, I guess. But like it was 1-1 when they did it, and so they gifted us a playoff berth.
That's right. Yeah. Well, hold on. I do want to correct that? Because I saw so many Red Wings fans and Penguins fans bitching about this last night. Because NHL Twitter went up in flames when they pulled the goalie. By the way, like it was.
This was akin to the Suddy game.
Yes, yeah, no, it was exactly
where everybody, the Giants fans,
right
were
across
like,
the street.
What?
Yeah, right across the street too.
All the
Same
Giants
place.
fans with 6 wins were like, we deserve to go to the play. Like, y'all are 6-10 dummies. Shut up. But anyway, I get your point.
Feet away from where that happened, too.
Yeah.
But what all these Penguins and Red Wings fans were saying was Caps don't deserve blah, blah, blah. Here's the deal. The Capitals beat the Red Wings 2 times down the stretch. You have no excuse there, Red Wings fans. The other one is what I started talking about last week and 2 weeks ago about the Penguins. When the Penguins traded Jake Gensel to the Hurricanes, they tapped out for like a week and a half. They lost 6 straight games. All these NHL writers are doing this, oh, we feel bad for Sidney Crosby because, this is the first time the Penguins have had to sell during the Crosby era. Like, we feel bad for this guy. Meanwhile, I was saying it on our airwaves. Ovechkin's got his troops going. They're playing every game hard. They didn't give up at all. Yet you feel bad for Crosby and the Penguins lost 6 or 7 straight games, and you're bitching about how that organization, and what happened? Nobody grabbed the last spot, so by the time the Penguins realized it and started playing hard again, it was too late. The Capitals deserves this way more than the other 2 teams anyways because they kept playing hard down the stretch even after they sold at the deadline.
That's right.
Unlike the Penguins. So I don't want to hear it from those 2 fan bases. The Capitals kept playing despite selling their best goal scorer.
I got a lot of texts from a lot of friends, for just slipping in and getting an 8 seed. There were a lot of kind of jubilant texts.
Yeah,
and they were
agree. Yeah.
Totally deserved. Like, this team played hard. And I talk about this a lot. All I really care about from my teams is they just play super smart and play their guts out.
Fight their guts out, yeah.
Fight their guts out. Play for each other, play for the uniform, play for the city, and just play hard. And the chips will fall where they may. Mm-hmm. Like last night, they got a ridiculous no call early in this game where a puck popped up into the air.
Fault, yeah.
And they blew the whistle. Then everybody stopped, and the puck a second later ends up in the net because it fell off someone's leg and went in. But, it may or may not have ended up being a goal had they not blown the whistle. But they blew the whistle, and the right call was made, and it was like ridiculous break 1. And when the second it happened, I went, oh, we're going to win. Yeah. I was like, I don't know how we're going to win, but we're going to win because those are the types of things that happen to when they win. But the larger point is, like, they weren't great last night. They also played the night before, and Philly didn't.
That's right. Yep.
Right? The season
scheduling quirks favored them.
It totally favored them. And they so they felt like they've been out of gas for a while. The injuries have caught up to them. They had, how many defensemen did they have playing last night that were people that they count on? Carlson, Fehérváry,
Alexiev down the stretch.
Right? Jensen was out. Sandin was out. Mm-hmm. They traded
Edmondson. Too. Underrated.
Edmondson had been traded.
Yep.
Like, they are beyond in short supply, right? They traded Kuznetsov for a lot of reasons, but that's a lot of offense, in theory, that gets traded, a lot of talent that gets traded off of a team. That happened. They went through a couple of months of Ovi essentially not being the same player, just literally not being the same player. They had a humongous goalie problem, like ridiculous $5 million a year goalie problem, and had to turn to a journeyman who ended up having the season of his life and gave up 1 goal in the last 2 games, albeit not peppered with a lot of shots or a lot of great, but still made no mistakes. Like the 1 goal they gave up wasn't him. Like, no mistakes throughout all of it. Clearly mattered to him. They're blocking shots at a crazy clip over the last couple of games. They out-hit the Lightning the other day, like, significantly. Maybe it was woken up a little bit by the Jensen injury, and maybe it was just fighting for their lives. Like, this team is worth cheering for. And I was, how far they go, I don't know, because I look at them and they are totally Scotch tape put together. They, like, whatever's underneath, you don't want to see what their bodies look like underneath the pads. I'm sure it's not pretty.
Yep.
They have minus 37 in goal differential. That is the worst goal differential of any team that qualified for the playoffs since the early 1990s. Like, everything about it screams sell-off, disappointments at key positions with key players, had an emotional thing with Backstrom early in the year.
Get to Backstrom, yeah.
TJ Oshie is hanging in there, but his his career is on the line because he cannot stay healthy. Right. There were periods of time where he was basically non-existent out there this year or not playing, and they're still here doing this, and that's incredible. So however far they go, which probably won't be very far, but who knows? I'm with you. They're the zombie caps or cockroaches, whatever. You can't kill them.
Yes.
Because a really good friend of mine is a huge Rangers fan. He's had season tickets for them forever, and he was already like, "Do you want to come up for a game?" And I'm like, "I would, but probably can't." But I'm like, "But maybe." And I said to him, I go, "You're not gonna like playing us." And he was going on about it. He's like, "I don't want to play Ovechkin." I go, "That ain't it, actually."
It's everyone else, yeah.
I go, "The problem with this team is it's infuriating. Like, you'll outshoot them, maybe you'll out-hit them. You'll walk away thinking you should have won, and for some reason you don't. And it's infuriating. Like, they are literally like they are the embodiment of a team that kept it together in the locker room. I want to give Coach Carberry a lot of credit here. I loved him from his hiring from the start. I thought he was threading a very difficult needle, and this is a humongous success. Like, wouldn't normally say that, like, for an 8 seed that just slipped in thanks to an empty net goal because the other team was too stupid to leave a goal but whatever. I'll take it. Like, if this team deserved to catch a ridiculous break, it was that one.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And they did. The karma was they deserved a break.
That's right. Yeah.
Because of everything they put themselves into the position. So it was awesome. And everybody who's like kind of locked into it, all the texts were like, "This is amazing." And I couldn't agree more. It was an amazing, amazing run to get that. And I think it's, no matter how far they go, it really sets up well for Carberry and this team moving forward that they did this together, because next year is going to be wonky again with older players on expiring contracts that have to be lifted up by a lot of young players, and we'll have to see what that looks like moving forward. But what they showed here is that there's pride in the room, pride in the uniform, a lot of chemistry still left, and they played hard for one another, and they got what they deserved, which was they hung in there. They beat a couple of really good teams. Then they knocked out a team who didn't play the night before with their season on the line on their home ice. It's worth praising. It was a great, great, great run to get to this.
I think why everyone is having that same reaction that you received. I received a lot of messages yesterday too of like, "Can you believe this?" And it was kind of a mixture of yes and no. I can and can't believe it that they have. I think why this team is becoming beloved, especially this season, was we're used to the high flying caps, the high scoring. Hold on to your butts in the third period. If they're down 4-0, don't count them out. They could probably score 4 goals. But we've known in the last 3 years they're not that team anymore, right?
They're incapable of doing it.
I think what really...
They're not fast enough to do it.
I think what's really... I said this to you yesterday. Can you tell me a quote that Peter Laviolette ever said in his time here? No, you can't. But I also look at his system the same way, too. There was nothing they really did that ever jumped out at you of going, oh, that's their identity. They didn't have an identity under him or Todd Reirden, basically after they won the cup, essentially. And what has Carberry done? He's now handed them an identity. You're going to be this physical team. You're going to be slower than the other team, but don't get caught up ice with them. Don't get into these pond hockey type games. Settle down, play defensively, and when the opportunity arises, take your shot, but play really, really smart. That's who they are now. Like, I think that's the craziest thing. They have an identity now in year one under this guy. Right.
That's what they have to
But they didn't have that, is what I'm saying. For 3 or 4 years after the Cup,
well, I think
we didn't know who they were.
They were hanging on with players like Backstrom, who went through injuries, but they're hoping he can find that magic touch again. And they were hoping Kuznetsov would be the talent that he was.
Right.
And they were trying to squeeze juice out of the lemon, and it wasn't there to be squoze. So... Like, they had to make a change. I felt like they needed to do this earlier, but whatever. They're here now, and I appreciate that the younger players seem to have been incorporated into this.
Yeah,
because the other thing that's dangerous with a team like this is when you have this old core and you are being loyal to them and you're not moving away from them and you're thick and thin no matter what happens, Oshie, or like they could have been very callous and put Oshie out there for the Kraken to potentially take. They could have been very callous about how they handled Nick Backstrom and his injury, but they didn't. And they hung in there with it, even at the detriment of keeping a competitive team together. And yet they got rewarded last night, and they proved that, like, they can be competitive enough with this mix of players, but it takes the core being willing to allow the young players to kind of grow into their roles, and they did. There were periods of time this year that McMichael really shined. This guy, Sonny Milano's got great hands, and all of a sudden has had these kind of great moments for them. Van Riemsdyk was very good the last couple of games. Carlson reawakened. I think that was a really big
Carlson,
deal.
If Lindgren wasn't doing what he's doing, Carlson would be the MVP of the season, I think.
LaPierre's a spark plug. He's one of them that's got the speed, the requisite speed to actually make difference. He doesn't seem like a finisher, but he's got the requisite speed to kind of challenge it. What is also different about this team now is there are certain lines that go out there where I go, well, they ain't scoring.
Yeah.
But as long as they kind of muck it up and forecheck and all that stuff,
Protus
even your
is
boy
part of that too.
Protus is part of that. Even at the end, your boy Pacioretty at times was at least you'd see him.
Yes, correct.
He'd whiff on a couple passes, but he was making some plays.
Yeah.
And he kind of re-engaged and reawakened. And so I'm proud of it. I think it's really great. And all the pressure's on the Rangers. They're the 1 seed.
Yeah, that's right.
So, that's the ex-coach who's going to be looking at this going, oh, God.
Right.
And then, it's Ovechkin. The second you give them a power play, you're scared to death because Carlson's shot is back. Ovechkin is just as dynamic in his office. And Oshie in the slot is a problem now, too. So if they can generate some penalties, you might have a problem with them. And the way they're playing defensively, selling out, blocking shots on behalf of their goaltender, I think, it all leads to they may scare the crap out of the Rangers here, which would be really great.
No, I mean, the other part about everything you just said, too, about the young players was the problem was with Laviolette. He only had a 2-year deal. So he was only ever going to play in a win-now type scenario. And what's happened here is you handed Carberry a 4 or 5 year deal, and he knows full well, I need to develop for the entirety that I'm here for. So you get those opportunities to the McMichaels, LaPierres, Protuses of the world to say, we need to develop you because I'm going to need you down the stretch after number 8's gone. I still plan to be here. And that's also helped with their shift as well because I got to understand with Laviolette what he did over the last couple years. We talked about it. He was trying to squeeze the last little bit of juice out. He's not playing the kids. He has no interest in playing the kids because he's going, I'm not going to get fired by the time those guys are ready to play,
and
essentially.
I hated that.
Right.
I hated that as a game plan. Organizational game plan, I hated.
Right. No. So, I mean, this is why it was nice to get a young head coach, hand him a long-term deal because he's going to have the interest of both of those parties, the veteran players and the young players moving forward. And, I mean, to your point, too, of them getting into the playoffs, Dylan Strom's never made the playoffs. It's the first time in his career he made the playoffs.
He's another one. He's been outstanding for them all year.
He's been their most consistent player all season long.
Yeah.
And
there were periods of time where he was their most dangerous scorer.
Yes. He was scoring. He basically scores a point per game. And so the fact that you're going to kind of get him elevated into this playoff scenario for the very first time. Lindgren has never played in the playoffs either. They actually.
And it was obvious in the last week the way he was talking about it, how much it mattered to him. He wanted this opportunity.
Yes. Yeah. He talked about it. Strome talked about it too, about him never playing, and I forget who else it was. It might have been Oshie last night that was kind of saying, we really wanted this. Whatever you kind of looked at the standings or whatever, he's like, this locker room was really going for it the whole entire second half. We liked each other, we wanted to make it for each other, and they pull it off and end up beating the Flyers. I mean, it was ridiculous.
So it's cool. So that'll start. We don't know game 1 yet. They haven't put out the schedule yet, so we'll figure that out.
Most likely, I'm guessing here, this is just my pure guess, is Sunday. Saturday, the Knicks are due to play. I don't foresee them doing a doubleheader. I got to think Sunday's going to be that ABC ESPN game because number 1 seed against Ovechkin. I mean, how's that not going to be the afternoon primetime game? My guess.
So I don't forget, would you ask John to come on tomorrow?
Sure, yes.
And would you ask Joe B if he's available for Friday?
For Friday, okay,
yes.
Got it. Yes.
Or opposites.
Or other
either
way.
way.
Got it, yes, sure thing.
Okay. Other story today, and because we don't have a lot of time, I can't spend a lot of time on this, but the Belichick story on ESPN is great.
Yep.
Number one, my most happy moment of just opening it was knowing that we are going to be mentioned because I saw all the clips from the Commanders fans who were clipping out the Belichick part to Washington. And I knew I'm going to open an article by Don Van Natta, Seth Wickersham, and know it's about football. Right. And I was so excited to go, here we go. I don't because in the past I would open any piece with their byline and go, what's it going to be?
Here we go, Jim.
Yeah. What's it going to be? What federal authority am I going to be reading about?
Right.
So anyway, this was refreshing to open up a in-depth reporting piece that's going to be football decisions, which I thought was great. The huge takeaway the larger story is this is why Bill Belichick is not a coach in the NFL right now. And the big headliner nationally is Robert Kraft told Arthur Blank not to hire him, not because he didn't want him to, but basically said you can't trust him, of which, they can't quite get Kraft to admit, obviously, that he did that, and they're not going to get Blank to admit that. But And the reporting of that was also seemed to be kind of on it at the time. Belichick was getting these interviews directly with blank. Of course they're going to hire him, right? It just seemed that way. And then all of a sudden it sounded like everyone else in the Falcons building was begging blank not to do it because they assumed if Belichick comes in here, they're all going to get offed.
They're all toast, yeah.
One way or the other, they're all going to get offed. It's going to be I'll work with them until they do something I don't like, and then I'm going to tell blank I don't like it, and he's going to make a choice and it's going to be in my favor. And they all knew that that's what was going to happen. So that was the huge national headline story. Then came our part of it, which was it is reported that Magic Johnson went to Josh Harris and advocated that the Commanders hire Bill Belichick as the next head coach of the team. And Harris, and I was saying this back when this first came out in November and December, I said, they're not definitive about much. So much so that I'm a week away from the draft and I still don't know who they're going to pick because they're that tight-lipped about it. And they've been tight-lipped about everything. But that group went out of their way to tell people like me and Keim and Ben and others personally, we're not hiring him. It's not about him. It's about the organizational structure we want to build, and we don't want the autocrat in charge of the Commanders. That's not what we're building, all due respect to him, and that's why we're not going to do it. So all along, when I kept hearing all the reports, I kept going, guys, it's not going to happen.
Yep.
But reading now that Magic Johnson was going, go ahead and do it, was a touch of a surprise to me today.
Well, it also, he did say, I think Belichick, there wasn't a quote, but basically it was reported too, Belichick didn't demand full power in Atlanta either. Now, granted, if what Kraft is saying is true, then he's gonna power grab it anyways.
Right. The whole storyline behind it was you can't trust him.
Right.
And
exactly.
that's how Kraft described it, which I think is pretty darn rich for somebody who was in as many Super Bowls as he was to sit there and kind of be like, well, you can't trust this guy. You can't, because look at the outcomes.
No, I mean,
look at the outcomes. Like, I'm sorry, you guys, you're living in another planet up there. If you think that what happened there is something that could have happened with other people, I think you are. I didn't like the way we went about it, and he may have lied to me about this thing or coerced me to do something I didn't want to do. Excuse me. Like, you guys went to a lot of Super Bowls. Why are you questioning his methodology? And maybe you ought to get out of his way a little bit.
Not only that, you and I talk about, like, one of the most impressive years they had was the year, it was like, 2016, 2017, when they were going to trade Brady to San Fran, and Kraft said no, so they traded him Jimmy G instead, and that was a midseason storyline. The reports came out in the middle of the season, and they won the Super Bowl that year.
They won the Super Bowl.
Say whatever the hell you want about the guy, but you guys just meddled and had a public spat halfway through the year, and all he did was turn around and have him win the Super Bowl.
And
like,
that
it was
the
ridiculous.
Beginning of the end for Brady.
Sure,
he's
but
like, you're kidding, right?
Sure, but they still did it.
If I'm Tom Brady too, the fact that you'd ever want to move on from me before I'm Peyton Manning at the end of my career when I literally can't play anymore. The fact that you'd ever want to do that is offensive.
Right.
And so I understand that. And Kraft getting in the middle of that and keeping Brady along for as long as possible makes sense to me.
Sure.
The owner did the right thing there and got in the way. But like the way that they've it seemingly has gone kind of quietly and not so quietly out of their way to kind of demean the legacy of Belichick, to me is ridiculous. Like, you are so spoiled. Like, to sit there and think that this guy wasn't an enormous part of the success there, and to because we had a couple of bad years after Brady left, to all of a sudden kind of go at him and tarnish his legacy that way, to me is ridiculous, honestly. Right. It really is. And I don't really even understand what purpose it serves New England to do that. That said, like, all the stuff about Atlanta is probably true. Like, he might only coach for a couple more years until he breaks that record. And then he might go in there and ruin the building for the way it is. And all the people who work there, of course, are going to stake their ground and go, I don't trust this guy. And they really shouldn't. Like, so that all makes sense to me. On the part with Magic saying you should hire him, it was a little surprising to hear that. Magic comes at it, I think, from a different point of view.
Yes.
Magic is a great. Magic looks at Belichick and sees a great. And he goes, you know what? I would hire a great.
Right.
And, I understand that position.
Of course, yeah.
From his point of view, where he's going, you could say what you want about the guy, but the guy's got more rings than he can fit on his hands.
That's right.
So I don't know. Like I'm sure Magic Johnson was all for Phil Jackson being hired by the Lakers,
Right,
or going to get people like Shaq, because he wants greats. And the Harris Group, and this was what was told to me early about it, was they're going to hire a GM. The GM is going to be very powerful. The coach is going to coach. That's the structure that they want. They landed mainly on Dan Quinn, partially because Dan Quinn is all in on that model. Yes, they think he's a great coach. Yes, they think he relates. Yes, they think he'll be a good influence on the team and they'll be good on the field, but they want him to focus on the field. And Quinn, in his lifespan, is actually all in on that. He's not saying something they want to hear. He's saying, this is actually what I want after my first experience in Atlanta. I learned that I'm better staying closer in my lane if I work with people that I feel like I can trust and will help me build the right team. There would have been I talked about this a lot. There would have been no purpose in hiring Adam Peters and hiring Belichick.
Right.
They never would have worked well together, and you know it.
Yep. Right.
Because the second Peters did anything that Belichick disagreed with, it would be a problem.
That's right. In
this case, there will be disagreement, but I think the delineation of who makes what decisions is clear. And Quinn, I'm sure the coaching staff's not going to love every personnel decision that they make, and I'm sure Peters isn't going to love every game plan that is implemented with the players that they select. But they go into this with a collaborative mindset. They could pretend, if Belichick was here with Peters, that they would go into the collaborative mindset. Nobody would believe it.
Right.
And the second anything goes wrong, the finger pointing would start. Mm-hmm. And then you can't beat Belichick in the finger pointing because he's Belichick.
That's right.
Adam Peters, for all the great things that are said about him and all the hope we have in him, is a first-time GM, and Belichick is a long-time icon.
Right.
Guess who wins that?
Exactly.
So the right thing happened here, I think. Again, it is. I like to pause when I say that, because turning down maybe the greatest coach ever is crazy to say.
Sure.
But in the case of where they are right now, and this is what they want to do, it was the right first step to move together with the same mindset, rowing the boat the same way. Atlanta, I can't speak for them. Why did they turn down the greatest coach of all time? I don't know.
Yeah.
Even after Kirk Cousins signaled he wanted to play for him. Remember that?
That's right.
Said it. Well, it was December, January. He's like, I'd play for Bill Belichick. Why wouldn't I? Hit wink, 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 wink. I'm going to Atlanta. Wink, 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 wink.
Right.
Anyway, that's where we are, guys. All right, we'll take a quick break. Bram Weinstein Show, ESPN 630, Sports Capital. Orioles were winners today, 4-2. Cedric Mullins had a 2-run walk-off home run in the bottom of the ninth to defeat the Twins at Camden Yards. So Baltimore gets a sweep of Minnesota. They get the day off. They'll start a series in Kansas City on Friday. The Nationals are looking to take 2 of 3 from the Dodgers, and they're shutting out Los Angeles in the top of the 7th. They are up 2-0. Both runs came in the first inning. C.J. Abrams hit a home run, and Joey Meneses had a sac fly to center, 2-0. Jake Irvin threw 6, 4 hits, no runs, 8 strikeouts, or 6 or 8. 8 strikeouts. How about that?
His day is done.
He's done?
Yeah, Mark Zuckerman, of course.
Yeah, from Facebook.
Yeah, from Facebook. Just said that he was getting the old dugout hugs, so his day is done. But good outing by him. 6 scoreless against the Dodgers. That's not bad, friend. Not bad at all.
Yeah, we'll take it. So 2-0 Nationals as they head to the bottom of the 7th now out in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. All right, let's see. Last night the Lakers won. They beat the Pelicans, so they are now the 7th seed, and they'll get Denver. I love Darvin Ham saying anyone who was sitting there saying we should have basically lost last night on purpose to avoid playing the Nuggets should be in an insane asylum. And I feel the same way. If you're LeBron James, ducking anybody is not a good look.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
So they played their hardest. Mm-hmm. They won. Pelicans will now get the Kings.
Zion hurt too, by the way.
Hurt?
Yeah, he's out.
He had 40 last night.
Yeah, he got hurt in the fourth quarter, and now he's out.
So they're probably going to lose to the Kings.
Done.
So they're probably going to lose to the Kings. So the Kings would get OKC, which will be a very up and down series if that's what it's going to be, high-scoring games between those two teams. That's the up-and-comer from a year ago versus the new up-and-comer. They are a little bit of the NBA's Orioles. They went and stashed pick after pick after pick, stunk for years, and now all of a sudden they've got the Kraken out there. It's bad. So we'll see what that looks like. But that'd be a pretty good series if that's how it ends up. Kings and Pelicans. Pelicans will have the home game, though, for that second play-in for the 8th seed because they were the higher seed. So they'll have the home game. So we'll see how that plays out. But no, Zion doesn't sound very good for them if that's the way it's going to go. So I'm glad the Lakers didn't do that.
Duck, yes, correct.
Come on. That's unexplainable.
I mean, if they had lost, they were going to lose. It wasn't going to
Everybody wants to talk about legacy. If it came out that LeBron wanted to duck the Nuggets, it would be a ding on the old That's a real ding on the old legacy, if that's what that was.
Absolutely.
And then the other side of it is, I do believe we have seen the last of the Warriors as we knew them.
Yeah.
It's over.
Of course. Yeah.
It's over. Klay Thompson, I don't know whether he'll be back or not. I think the only way that he is if he's willing to take a mid-level veteran exception type of thing. I don't think they're going to give him any kind of real money or real length of contract because they just have to move on from him. So I don't know whether they have interest in doing that. I don't know whether he'd have interest in doing that. I got a funny feeling he's retiring, actually, because I wonder if he wants to continue playing because there might not be a lot of money for him really anywhere in the league. So he'd have to take probably a low-ish number to put on a different uniform. I guess that'll be up to him whether he actually really wants to do that.
Wizards, bro.
No, we're not doing that.
We're
done with that stuff.
Sure?
Positive. What are the odds on that? 80,000 to 1 that he shows up here?
I don't know.
Why?
Reunite with Poole?
That's funny. Reunite with Poole.
I mean, he really lit it up last night, so.
Yeah, no
0.
Thank you. Yeah, no thank you.
He didn't score last night. I mean, that's.
Maybe he might retire. I actually think he's a big time candidate to retire. Then they got to have a come to Jesus with Draymond because they can't have another season like this where every other night he's losing his temper to the point where they have to kick him out of games, or he's choking people or punching people. He's completely lost his mind this year.
3 years left on that deal too.
3 years left. Well, they had to make a choice.
Yeah, right.
They had to make a choice. It was him or Poole.
Right.
They had to kind of make a choice there.
Right.
So, all right. So Draymond's back. He's not going anywhere. Yeah. Steph is still Steph.
Yep.
It's great.
Yep. Still is great.
But go look at the rest of the team. It's not very good.
No.
It's not very good. So I think we've seen the end of it. I don't think that they're, unless short of some very unusual deals that come their way that really reshape them quickly that I can't picture what are they trading to somebody else to get somebody else to come in there. I think we're kind of done seeing that dynasty for real this time.
No, for sure. I said this a couple years ago when they beat the Celtics that was the luckiest championship they had. That they shouldn't even have won that last one together. But it all just they all clicked together.
All kind of came together.
Yeah, and it's like with that team, when it clicks, they're the best team ever. I mean, with the mixture of shooting and defensive.
We're not going to be the suck this year.
Yeah, no, it was. And the Celtics are kicking themselves going, we can't even get back there. And we, of course, ran into them. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely over for them.
Let's see, tonight. First tip, 7 o'clock ESPN, Heat 76ers. Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, the only reason really why the 76ers are at this spot was Embiid missed so much time this year. But so they end up the 7 seed. And so they could be whoever wins this will get the Knicks.
Yep.
I don't know. It's kind of hard to pick at this point. I would think the Sixers at home. That's what I would think.
Yeah, you would think.
Sixers at home.
Who knows?
Loser will get the winner of Hawks Bulls, which, what a pointless.
Who cares?
Is that even a playoff game? Right. That's a beyond who cares.
It's a nothing burger.
The Bulls are in the same position. Is this going to be the same thing where the little girl shows up and screeches during free throws tonight?
Really hope not.
Yeah, I mean, if there is a NBA god, we'll get winner Heat 76ers, whoever gets the Knicks, and the other one wins that other game and gets the Celtics because I don't want Hawks Celtics. No, thank you. And I really don't want Bulls Celtics. No, thank you.
Right.
So hopefully we'll end up getting that. So that's the NBA stuff that's going on tonight. And then the other thing that happened today was they kicked out that guy, Jonte Porter.
Yes.
And it got uglier than even you might think with all the stuff that was revealed about what he was doing. It sounds like millions of dollars being bet.
Yep.
And some bets on the Raptors to lose that lost.
Yep. You have to be banned.
Of course.
Have to be. I mean, I was already leading towards lifetime ban, but when you're betting on your team to lose, there's no other option. Death penalty at that point. You could never play again.
I agree.
You'd never play again. Yeah.
Death penalty. Let's see. And the other story I wanted to get to, Jason Kelce apparently lost his Super Bowl ring.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Did you know he lost it in a pool of Skyline chili?
What?
Listen to this story. Former Eagles center Jason Kelce has reportedly lost the Super Bowl ring that he won as part of the franchise's last championship in 2018, and the way he lost it is epic. He said that he lost his Super Bowl ring in a pool of Skyline chili during the Lumbaby games at the Thursday's New Heights Live podcast in Cincinnati. He said, quote, "There was an unfortunateness, as you guys know. This game existed because I continuously lose my Super Bowl ring, and I didn't even know if Travis still knows this, but I legitimately lost it at this event. They couldn't find it. All this stuff has been thrown away, so I think we could safely assume my Super Bowl ring is now in a landfill someplace in Cincinnati."
Oh, my God.
He lost his ring in a pool of chili. I don't know what the Lumbaby games are.
Neither do I.
I don't think I want to know what they are, because I think when they say pool of Skyline chili, I think they mean it literally.
Yeah.
Like an above-ground pool of Skyline chili.
Or like a baby pool or something like that.
A baby pool. But if it was in a baby pool, you can't find the ring, or someone did and took it.
Yeah, it's one extreme or the other. It is truly in a landfill, or somebody pocketed that thing.
More likely someone pocketed that.
Granted, if he see, like, there's a weird thing here. What's the timeline? When did he say he lost the ring?
I don't have those details.
Because if it was too
all
late,
they took was the quote from him basically saying, "I did lose my ring and it was in a pool of Skyline chili at this event." I need a lot more details. What time did it happen?
Right.
What was going on
was
at the
the
time?
chili already in the trash by the time you did? Like,
how many people were in there? You obviously know you lost your ring. Why didn't you stop down the games to find the ring? Did you just think you were going to find it later? Was there one guy looking really weird running?
Yeah.
He's like covered in chili, and they're like, "Do you want a towel?" And he's like, "No, absolutely not," and just running out of the Lumbaby games. Like, there's a lot of questions here. Or is it as simple as, I lost it, I didn't realize I lost it.
Right, that's what I'm getting at.
And then they threw away the pool of human Skyline chili that I bathed in. And, because who's going to eat that? And then the ring was in there and I didn't realize it till later, which, considering how much he drinks, is a possibility that he didn't realize until after the fact that it's gone. That's a stupid way to lose something.
It is. Value. I mean, he's going to get a new one. The way the modern age works now is you can just order another one. So
it's going to cost a pretty penny, though.
Sure.
There's probably a lot of diamonds on that thing.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. But he's Kelce. Like, they're going to get him a new one. He'll be fine. I will say, though, if you got that thing in your house somewhere, it's going to be a while until you can sell it.
True.
Or you're going to sell it on back channels.
And
you can't hit up Ravel for that one.
No. And his wife's going to be like, "You're not going to the Lumbaby games
she's like,
with
"You
your ring
idiot."
this time."
Yeah, she's like, "You stupid
not this time,
idiot."
Idiot. Keep your shirt on, idiot. All right, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow. Bram, watch the show. ESPN 630 Sports Capital.